Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network.
And this is Astin-Gregory from Free Humanity.
And we are super excited to talk to you guys today. You may have seen Dan and I in a recent video talking about the road to Geneva, and we're working on some really big projects. We want to let you know about the People's Reset UK coming to Bath this September 27th to the 29th. We are super excited. We're going to tell you a little bit about the event and how much it costs, where it's going to be at, who's going to be speaking, all the things you can expect. But first, before we do that, Dan, why don't we share a little bit about how we came to get connected and what really led to the People's Reset UK?
Well, that's a great question. So there's actually a lot of stepping stones before we actually got connected, because I was very familiar with the Greater Reset in the UK. In fact, my team and I were looking at this and what you were doing from 2020. So we paid very close attention, and I'll be honest, we were a little envious that we didn't have something over here with the same. So actually very pleased that we now have the chance to have something like that. And we had a great respect for everything you did. And the content was just so powerful. So that was how Derrick, as an activist, got onto my radar and just saw the trail that you were blazing. It was just an incredible experience. So when you and I spoke actually at the same venue that we're having this event at, the Apex Hotel in Bath, it was a real pleasure to have the opportunity to meet in person, because, you know, there's nothing I admire more than someone who's willing to take action and relentless action in pursuit of freedom and this cause that we're pursuing here. And of all the people I've met in the last 5 years, you know, you are one of the most prolific. I don't understand, you know, I'm hoping to learn from you as we get to know each other, how you write books, how you do tours, and how you do all of this all at once. It's like, you know, you create a whirlwind of activity. It's incredible. So it was a real pleasure to meet first in the better way. And, you know, both you and I shared the stage together at the conference there. And then you kindly invited me to come and speak at the event in Morelia, which is my first real in-person taste of the Greater Reset and what it was all about. And it absolutely blew my mind. You know, exceeded all my expectations. I've been to a lot of events during the course of COVID, when we were finally allowed to have events, and we had plenty of rallies where we weren't. But, you know, I'd been to a number of different events, and it was really kind of rear view facing, you know, looking at what happened and trying to make sense of what happened during COVID. And, you know, the doctors and the scientists and the evidence base was growing and really formalizing. And it's essential that we have that component of the journey. And I'm sure, you know, and actually looking back over the Greater Reset, I'm sure you had elements of that as well. But when I came to Morelia, Derrick, what I saw and experienced was a truly forward-focused, solution-orientated experience. And I said, we absolutely need to bring this to Europe. We really need this energy. We really need this forward focus. And in many ways, you know, Central America, South America, and indeed North America in some ways have already taken some really important steps forward on the journey towards freedom. And so I think it's exciting that we can bring some of that to the UK. And it's even more exciting that we can stimulate the conversation across Europe about how we can move forward too. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's been amazing to connect, and now delighted that we're actually bringing this thing to the UK.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Now it's my turn to shower a little praise on you, Dan. Just to kind of share my version of events, like when I went to Better Way in Bath at as you said, the same venue we're going to be holding the People's Reset in September. You were one of the people that first caught my attention. I'd known a little bit about your work prior, and several people had told me we needed to connect. And once you interviewed me and I got to know a little bit more about you, and then of course hearing you speak on stage, I definitely knew I wanted to bring you to Mexico. And once you came down, you know, you really were a powerful contributor to that energy that you were just describing. Like, I think it was definitely meant for you to come down there. And now I feel like we're going to be creating a lot of beautiful things together. First of which is this People's Reset. I'll mention right now, the website is thegreaterreset.org. And I'll just share about that. The reason the website's thegreaterreset.org, we also are going to get the peoplesreset.com shortly. So both websites will go the same place. But for right now, use thegreaterreset.org. And this comes out of the fact that, as Dan said, our first few events were called the Greater Reset. We were initially responding to the World Economic Forum, the UN, and their announcement of this Great Reset plan in summer 2020. And that was our initial response, our kind of reaction. But right away, as Dan said, we wanted to be forward-focused, forward-thinking, and talking about, well, what are we going to do? What are our plans for the Greater Reset, or the People's Reset, which we've now rebranded to calling ourselves the People's Reset and launching the People's Reset UK. We also are going to continue to do events in Mexico in January, but the goal is to take this movement, if you will, worldwide to as many parts of the world as possible to spread solutions and to bring people together. So for those who haven't experienced it, the People's Reset, particularly in the UK, it's going to be 3 days. And we not only have really powerful speakers who are going to come educate you in, about solutions as it relates to growing food, but we're also talking about mental, physical, spiritual health. You can see right now on screen, these are the different themes. We have 5 themes that we'll be talking about over the 3 days. The first one we call Mind, Body, and Soul. This is about physical, mental health. Permaculture and food independence is all about growing food and getting connected to your local growers and learning more about practical skills, food storage, saving seeds, things like that. The third theme is all about parallel networks. And this can include everything from homeschooling, building new education systems, to talking about local currencies, all about trying to create new systems to compete directly with the old ones. And then our fourth theme is liberating technology. This is about how can we actually use computers, cell phones, and the digital tools that we know are valuable and useful, but do so in a way that doesn't support Google, Apple, and all the big tech giants out there. And our fifth theme is building free and conscious communities. And this can be things like how to organize in your communities and your activist groups, in your community, your families, whatever you have. It can also be ideas for educating children, how to buy land, how to start an eco-village, things like that. So we try to bring these 5 things together. And in the UK, in Bath, we're going to be talking about that from the 27th to the 29th. We're also going to have these amazing speakers. We've got about 9 or 10 speakers coming from North America, from Mexico, and from the United States, including Hakeem Anwar, who's on our team. He's with the Above Phone, Privacy Phone. We've got David Rodriguez, who's a really powerful speaker, who I'm excited to have come out. My partner, Miriam Gomez, will be speaking, of course, and leading a meditation. We've also got Yoshi and Paula Pantera, who are really powerful speakers about not only recognizing the importance of indigenous cultures, but again, true regenerative culture, not that fake WEF stuff. And we're also going to have Emma Sran from the World Council for Health, who is involved in the Better Way Conference. We're going to have Lydia and Arturo Ponce de Leon, who do some really beautiful work. They call it geophilia. It's like sacred geometry inspired architecture. And it's not just about having really cool looking buildings. It's also about thinking about having EMF free spaces and the shape of your building and the direction your building is facing and how that's going to affect your mental health and your spiritual health. They're really bringing some really powerful ideas. We're also going to have Anthony Samaroff, who's from the UK, speaking, and the majority of the other speakers will be from the UK and Europe. We want to make sure to highlight, of course, the local talent and really powerful minds out there as well. And then we're going to have music too. We're going to have music from Presence, who's a really talented artist. I'm going to be performing my music, and I'm sure we'll have more from over on that side of the pond. And I also want to mention here that if you want to nominate somebody to speak, or you yourself want to be a speaker, we do have a form now on the front page of thegreaterreset.org. You can fill this form out, and we do go through all these suggestions. We want to hear who you guys think might be a great speaker. We can't promise everybody will be chosen, but we will go through them. And then finally, you can also submit a workshop. So this is, I think, Dan, one of the best parts of what was formerly known as the Greater Reset, now the People's Reset, is this decentralized nature of what we do. Yes, we have a main stage with speakers that we've handpicked and curated that we think are really worth listening to, but also you, the attendee, those who want to come in person, you get to participate by submitting your own workshop. So if you have a skill that you want to offer, or if you have a research topic that maybe you think you're really well versed in and you can educate the rest of the community, you can submit a workshop, and our team is going to curate a very specific workshop schedule. So in addition to the main stage, we will have extra rooms at the Apex Hotel where there will be workshops going on during the various breaks, and you can offer what you have, or you can learn even more. So that's another special part of the event. So when you're buying a ticket, you're going to get access to the main stage with these speakers. You're going to get to hear about these 5 different themes, and you're going to get to check out numerous workshops from the community itself, and of course, lots of awesome, fun, conscious music. And Dan, you want to tell everybody a little bit about the ticket sales that we have already launched and are apparently going really well?
Yeah, so we've set it up so we have different stages of the ticket sale. So we launched the tickets on Tuesday this week with a super early bird promotion, which is for 50 tickets, you can get the tickets of £200. After those 50 are sold out, and by the way, already half of those have gone. And we anticipate by the end of this weekend, actually, we're recording this on the 10th of May, Friday the 10th of May, we think this will sell out by Sunday, most likely. So if you're interested in getting the very best value tickets, I would encourage you to take action now. And then there will be £250 for the remainder of May. And then from the 1st of June, there'll be £300. Now, that includes your full access for the 3 days, as Derrick talked about, plus all the workshops. It's all included. Now, we've had a couple of comments from people about, pricing and things like that and how much it costs to come to these events. And I acknowledge that we live in interesting times when it comes to the economic environment. And it's important to recognize that and see that. It's our hope that we're going to create an immensely valuable experience that far exceeds the price which you pay. And I consider it an investment. I've been attending events like this for over a decade now. And I shared a story of Derrick about in 2012 when I was looking to escape my corporate career. I actually attended an Anthony Robbins event. He's an American inspirational speaker. And I really couldn't afford to go. And the tickets were actually 4 times the price of what we're charging. And I actually flew out to New York for the event. So I had the cost of flights and hotels, etc. But it was a commitment. I was looking to make changes in my life. And thank goodness I went to that event. In the next 12 months, I made some radical changes. I left my corporate job behind. I quit alcohol. I started taking care of my body. All of these different changes I made as a result of decisions I made at that event. And the next 6 months, I was well and truly able to pay off the cost of investing in that event. But it's an unforgettable moment in my history because my life has turned around as a result of going to that event. And I know that there are so many great stories of people who have been to the Greater Reset over the last few years, because the interesting thing here when we talk about the actual nature of the event, it splices between our own individual transformation, our own individual change, and how we can become the change we want to see in the world and how we can contribute to the change we want to see. And then the level of the systems change with the parallel networks. But even then, it's talking about how you can actually connect directly locally with those types of networks. Now you can become involved. So it's a potentially life-changing event. It doesn't take away the fact that, you have to have the resources to be able to come. But during this time, the whole message for us is about personal responsibility. And it's a challenge to become resourceful. And we've done our absolute best to try and make this affordable for everyone. We actually spent a month looking at 50 different venues to try and get, this was the very best value we could find. We've worked really hard to do this. But I just wanted to acknowledge that. But it's important to recognize the value that's going to be involved. Speakers from all over the US and Mexico who have made the Greater Reset what it's been so far, and then textured with our local speakers in the UK and Europe that's going to really make this come alive. So it's going to be an outstanding event. And it's not just, sit in a seminar room from 9 to 5. We'll have the workshops all around this that you can get involved with. Plus, the evening entertainment is going to be mind-blowing. We're just going to have a lot of fun. You're going to make a lot of new connections, not only from your own local area, but also some new connections around the world. And going to Mexico, it was funny. Emma and I joked about it because there's 4 or 5 people that we said, we see you at every event, no matter where the event is. It's like we're a traveling movement. It's an international community where we're coming together across the world to learn new materials so that we can then apply it in our locality. And I think the changes that we can see off the back of this event, both individually and culturally and socially off the back of this type of experience, is profound. And it's important to recognize that you're not going there just as a participant. You're going there as someone who can take these skills, this knowledge, and help to lead change in your area, lead change in your life. And I think that's the message I want to get across. I do appreciate it's a challenge for some, but I encourage you to make this a priority. And we're going to have an amazing experience for you. And I know, having traveled out to Mexico myself to speak in Mexico, I do so with no regrets.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. I just want to echo a little bit of what you said there. First off, that if you do come in person, which we highly recommend, you do go home with new contacts. Like if you're there to network because you got a business project or you have a new idea and you're just looking for the right people, this is the kind of gathering to come to for that purpose. If you're looking just for friends and connection because you feel alone right now, this is the event to come to. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but we call it an activation. So the original name, you'll notice the website's thegreaterreset.org. We are also going to get the peoplesreset.com. They're both going to go the same place, but that name comes from our original initiative. Our response, our reaction was to the World Economic Forum in 2020 to their Great Reset initiative. We said, well, we're the Greater Reset. We're the People's Reset. We're not going to listen to your vision. We're going to do our own thing. And we called it an activation, not a conference, not a festival. not any of these other names, even though it has elements of all of those, because we wanted to really get across the message that when you come here, we want you to be an active participant. We want you to soak in the ideas that are being presented. And I love seeing people just taking notes during the talks, and you see them making connections, and you can see the people who are truly taking it seriously and are going to go home and just get to work. Because like you said, Dan, we're meeting people from all around the world, but the best part is when you realize, oh, here's somebody who lives in my country or in my community. Now we can go back home and we can put some of these ideas into practice. That's where the real work begins. The gathering, the activation is like the fun part. We come together, we exchange a lot of ideas, we have music, we have networking and a good old time. And then hopefully everybody goes home inspired and activated, and they put the plans into action, because that's what really matters. And also, I will again say that I truly do think considering this as an investment is the best way to go about it. I also have been invited to a lot of events around the world, and I've been to events in the past that I couldn't even afford to be at if I wasn't a speaker. So I'm very conscious of the cost, and both Dan and I spend a lot of time having this conversation, thinking about venues, as you said, and figuring out what's the best option where we can give the most value and at a price that should be affordable to most people. And right now, if you are worried about the funds, now is the best time while we have these super early bird tickets for £200 only. As Dan said, we're already sold 50% of them, and we're going to go until we sell 50. So again, the next 25 tickets from the time we're recording this are at £200. Once we pass that, the rest of the month for May will be $250, and then from June 1st all the way till the event in September, it'll be at $300. So you have an opportunity right now to get in. Stay tuned to our website. You can sign up for our email list, and you're going to get announcements about all the upcoming speakers. We're going to keep you aware as we add workshops and as we add more musical entertainment. This is definitely an experience that you're not going to want to miss. And I'm so excited and so thrilled, Dan, to be bringing this to the UK with you and to collaborating. And I know that good things are going to come out of this.
Yeah, I think it's a real opportunity to take things to another level here in the UK and across Europe. The last 4 years have been challenging for a lot of us. And we know that things are, we're still facing different issues. You mentioned the road to Geneva at the minute. And actually this project I consider part of the road to freedom, the long road to freedom. We need to take these stepping stones. There's, to me, this is the very beginning of something. What we're doing right now is actually the beginning of, I believe, of a civil liberties movement that will look back in history and recognize that the COVID era was the catalyst for something. But now we're creating these stepping stones that I believe can lead a path towards a greater future that is shaped by people like us. It's not the unelected global bureaucrats who get to determine how we live our lives. And in fact, as a closing point, Derrick, I think it'd be useful for us to summarize by saying the original event was a counter reaction to the Great Reset. Well, actually, the week before we convene in Bath, in New York, the United Nations is having their summit for the future where they're signing this pact. Now, I don't remember about you, but were you invited to go to that event in the United Nations to sign?
My invite must have got lost in the mail.
Yeah, must have got lost in the mail, but I don't remember getting an invite to sign this pact for our future and how our future exactly is going to pan out. So really, this is another opportunity for us to respond to that and have our summit for the future, the people's summit for the future. So we get to determine once again our own freedom, our own independence and right to self-determination so that we can carve our own future. So let's respond, let's not react, let's respond to what they're doing and start to lay our own groundwork ahead. And I think this event will be it'll be an excellent energizer following that event in New York. It's going to be a real springboard for us to again catalyst for our own future.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, let's leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. thegreaterreset.org is the website, thegreaterreset.org. You can get your tickets now. You can submit your workshops. You can nominate a speaker. You can check out the lineup we have so far. And this is just the beginning. Dan's on the road to Geneva. Then we're going to be on the road to New York, and we're all going to meet in Bath, UK, September 27th to the 29th for our summit, for our future. It's time for us to continue to declare our sovereignty and to decide what our future looks like rather than leaving it in the hands of the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Dan. As always, everybody, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.